On a quiet evening in the unforgiving lands of the Old West, a solitary woman made a choice that would forever alter the course of her life. Beneath the vast, endless sky, she dug deep into the earth, not to hide treasure or secrets, but to give a dying tradition one last breath. She buried a fallen Native American warrior with a reverence that few dare to show in those troubled times. The air was thick with tension and whispered fears, yet her heart was guided by a respect that transcended borders and conflict. As the night fell, something extraordinary unfolded. From the shadows of the distant hills, a soft glow began to spread. One lantern, then another, until the darkness was pierced by the light of 1,000 tribal lanterns. They danced gently in the night breeze, casting a sacred glow upon her humble home. It was a silent but powerful message, a blessing from a people often misunderstood and forgotten. In that moment, the line between enemies blurred, and a fragile bridge of honor was built in the unlikeliest of places. This was more than an act of kindness. It was a courageous stand in a world defined by division and prejudice. She had looked beyond fear and hatred, choosing empathy over suspicion, humanity over conflict. The legacy of that night would ripple far beyond the boundaries of that quiet frontier town, whispering truths about courage, respect, and the power of unseen bonds. Few knew the woman's name, but her story would echo through the ages, a testament to how a single act of compassion can ignite a light in the darkest of times. As you listen to what happened that night, prepare to step into a tale where honor shines brighter than any gunfire, and where respect, even for the fallen, holds the power to change lives forever. The morning after that mysterious night, the town awoke under a heavy silence, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Rumors had already begun to stir, whispers of lights that floated over the hills, like the spirits of the long-forgotten tribes had come alive to pay tribute. At the center of it all stood the woman, simple and resolute, her hands still stained with the soil of the grave she had dug. To most, she was just another settler, trying to survive the harshness of the frontier, but to those who looked closer, her act carried a deeper meaning, one of courage in a world ruled by suspicion. In a place where distrust between settlers and native tribes had caused countless tragedies, her gesture was a quiet rebellion against the harshness of that era. She had seen beyond the violent clashes and the endless battles for land, recognizing the humanity that bound them all. The dead Indian she buried was not just a stranger. He was a symbol of a culture fighting to survive amidst encroaching darkness. And in honoring him, she challenged every prejudice that had hardened hearts in that rugged land. But the frontier was no place for softness. News of her deed traveled fast, stirring both admiration and scorn. Some townsfolk saw her as a fool, risking their fragile peace for the sake of a man they called an enemy. Others whispered of curses and bad omens, fearful that the old ways might return to haunt them. Yet, the woman stood firm, undeterred by threats or doubts, for she had touched something sacred that night, something that no gun or law could erase. As the days passed, the strange light continued to visit. The lanterns did not vanish with the dawn, but appeared time and again, a reminder that the tribes had not forgotten. It was as if the land itself responded to her act of respect, wrapping her home in a protective glow that no harm could breach. The woman, once isolated, now found herself surrounded by a mystery that both scared and comforted her, an invisible bond weaving through the shadows of the Old West. And then came the moment that would change everything. A visitor from the tribe, silent and solemn, arrived at her doorstep. He brought no weapons, only a simple gift, and a message written in the language of the stars and the earth. In that exchange, the walls of fear began to crumble, revealing a fragile hope that even the hardest hearts might heal. The visitor's arrival was met with curiosity and unease by the townsfolk, who kept their distance yet watched closely from behind shuttered windows. To the woman, however, he was a living testament to the respect she had shown, a living bridge between two worlds that history had set apart. His presence spoke of forgiveness and a desire for peace, a hope that small gestures could plant seeds in the rocky soil of conflict. Together, they shared stories beneath the open sky, stories that echoed with the weight of loss, survival, and resilience. This unlikely meeting was not just about the past, but about a future uncertain and fragile. The tribe, battered by years of war and displacement, found in her a rare ally, someone who dared to honor their traditions when so many had turned away. She listened as he spoke of ancestors, of battles fought not only with rifles, but with spirit and will, of lands sacred and stories sung beneath the moonlight. Each word deepened her understanding, painting a portrait of a people whose strength came not from weapons, but from their unbreakable connection to the earth. Yet, danger lingered in the winds. Not all welcomed this fragile peace. Some settlers grew restless, their fear twisting into anger. Rumors began to spread of plans to confront the tribe, to push back against what they called an invasion of old ghosts. The woman knew that respect alone could not stop the coming storm, but neither would silence or hatred. She realized that to protect the fragile light she had ignited, she would have to stand not only for the dead, but for the living. The night grew darker as the first echoes of conflict stirred on the horizon. But within the woman burned a fire fueled by something deeper than fear, a conviction born of compassion and courage. She understood that the true battle was not one of guns and blood, but of hearts and minds, a fight for understanding in a land torn apart by years of bitterness. And so, as the tribal lanterns continued to light her way, she prepared to face whatever would come, holding on to the fragile hope that peace might still find a place in the West. This was no longer just her story. It had become a story for all who dared to believe that even in the harshest lands, respect and honor could shine brighter than any darkness. Days turned into weeks, and the fragile peace between the woman and the tribe began to ripple through the settlement like a quiet storm. Some townsfolk softened, curiosity replacing fear, but others remained hardened, clutching old grudges as if they were lifelines. The woman became a symbol. Some called her a peacemaker, others a traitor, but through it all, she stayed grounded in her conviction. She knew that healing was never easy, especially in a land where scars ran deep and wounds still bled. At twilight, the tribal lanterns glowed brighter, almost as if sensing the shifting tides of trust and tension. The woman and the tribe's emissary met often, sharing more than words. They shared meals, laughter, and stories woven with the wisdom of generations. These moments of connection created a quiet revolution, a testament that even in a world torn by conflict, bridges could be built. Yet, beneath the surface, the threat of violence loomed, waiting for the slightest spark to ignite the flames of old wars. One evening, news reached the town of a band of outlaws planning to attack the tribe's camp, aiming to shatter the fragile peace with bullets and fire. The woman felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. She could no longer stand by silently. To protect the honor she had shown, she would need to rally those willing to see beyond fear. The choice was clear: either stand united or watch the darkness swallow everything she had fought to protect. Despite the risks, she rode through the night, gathering allies among settlers who had seen the truth in her actions. Their numbers were small but fierce, driven by a shared desire for justice and peace. The frontier was a harsh teacher, but it also bred unexpected courage. Together, they prepared not just for battle, but for a chance to change the course of history, a chance to prove that respect and humanity could triumph over hatred and violence. The lanterns flickered softly in the distance, as if blessing their resolve. In the heart of the Old West, a quiet rebellion was awakening, fueled by the unyielding belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could spark a revolution of hope. The night of confrontation arrived with a chill that cut through the air like a knife. Shadows moved stealthily across the hills as the outlaws approached, their guns loaded with hate and greed. But waiting for them was not just the tribe and the woman's small band of settlers. It was the light of unity that had grown stronger with every shared moment, every act of trust. The battle that followed was fierce, but it was unlike any fight fought before on that rugged land. Bullets tore through the night, but they could not break the spirit that bound these unlikely allies. The settlers and tribe fought side by side, not just with weapons, but with the fierce determination to protect what mattered most: the hope for a future where respect ruled over fear. The woman rode at the front, her heart pounding with the weight of the moment, knowing that their stand was more than survival. It was a declaration that compassion could conquer even the darkest of nights. When dawn finally broke, the battlefield was quiet except for the soft glow of the tribal lanterns, still burning strong amidst the scars of battle. The outlaws had been driven away, their hatred unable to withstand the force of unity. The townsfolk who witnessed the stand were forever changed, their eyes opened to a truth long ignored. That peace was not a weakness, but a strength born from courage and respect. In the days that followed, stories spread beyond the hills and plains, tales of a woman who dared to bury a fallen enemy with honor, and in doing so, ignited a light that brought together two worlds. The tribal lanterns became a symbol, not just of remembrance for the dead, but of the living bond between people once divided by fear. The frontier, harsh and unforgiving, had witnessed something rare, a glimpse of harmony in a land shaped by conflict. Through it all, the woman remained humble, her heart forever marked by the quiet power of that night. She knew that the true victory was not in the battle won, but in the respect that had lit 1,000 lanterns, and in the hope that, no matter how dark the night, a single act of kindness could light the way for generations to come. As peace settled tentatively over the land, the woman found herself at the heart of a new, fragile community. The tribe and settlers began to weave together their lives like threads in a tapestry, each learning from the other's pain and strength. What had once been walls of suspicion and fear slowly transformed into bridges of understanding. It was a delicate balance, with moments of tension always lurking, but the light of those tribal lanterns served as a constant reminder that respect could indeed change even the harshest places. Yet, the woman's journey was far from over. With every act of kindness she extended to the tribe, she faced whispers and doubts from those who clung to old ways. Some could not forgive what they saw as betrayal, while others feared that peace would only be a brief illusion before the next storm. But she carried the weight of their judgment with quiet dignity, knowing that true change often demanded sacrifice. Her strength came from the deep belief that honor was worth any price. The tribal elders, once distant and wary, began inviting her to their ceremonies, sharing sacred knowledge and ancient wisdom. These moments of connection revealed a profound truth. The land was not just a battlefield, but a living spirit that held stories of resilience and hope. The woman listened, absorbing lessons not taught in any school, but written in the stars and the rustling of the prairie grass. Her heart expanded with a newfound purpose, to be a guardian of this fragile peace, a beacon in a world too often darkened by hate. Meanwhile, the children of both worlds began to play together, unaware of the divides their parents fought so hard to maintain. Their laughter filled the air, a sound so pure it seemed to heal even the deepest wounds. Watching them, the woman felt a surge of hope that one day, the future would be different, a future where respect was not the exception, but the rule. It was a dream born from a single act of compassion, shining brighter than any gunfire ever could. But as the seasons changed, so did the challenges. New threats emerged, laws from distant cities, greed for the land, and old prejudices that refused to die. The woman understood that peace required constant vigilance, that the lantern's light could dim if forgotten. And so, she prepared herself once more, ready to defend not just the past she honored, but the future she dared to believe in. The government's interest in the frontier brought a new wave of tension. Officials arrived with papers, orders, and plans that threatened to unravel the delicate harmony. They saw the land as property to be divided, bought, and sold, not as sacred ground where spirits lingered and people had found peace. The tribe faced forced relocation, and the settlers who had begun to see each other as neighbors were suddenly pitted against one another again. The woman stood at the crossroads of this turmoil, her heart torn between the laws of men and the unspoken laws of respect. Refusing to be silenced, she sought out allies in both communities, gathering voices to speak against the injustice. Her courage inspired others who had once hidden behind fear to step forward and demand recognition for the bond they had forged. It was a difficult battle, fought not with guns but with words, petitions, and relentless determination. The woman's quiet strength became a rallying point, a reminder that even the mightiest forces could be challenged by unwavering conviction. At night, beneath the endless sky, the tribal lanterns burned steadily, symbols of resilience and hope. They guided those who believed that respect was not just a fleeting moment, but a foundation to build upon. The woman walked among the flickering lights, feeling the weight of history and the promise of tomorrow intertwined in each glow. She knew that the road ahead would be long and uncertain, but she was no longer alone. Communities that had once been strangers now stood together, united by a shared vision of peace and justice. They faced threats from outsiders and internal doubts, but their bond grew stronger with every challenge. The woman's act of burying the dead warrior had ignited a fire that refused to be extinguished by hatred or greed. It was a fire fueled by honor, empathy, and the belief that even in the wildest frontiers, humanity could prevail. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting golden light on the vast plains, the woman looked toward the future with hope. The story that began with a single burial had become a legacy of courage and respect, a legacy that would inspire generations to come, reminding all who heard it that in the darkest times, even the smallest light can change the world. The seasons passed, and with each one, the story of the woman and the tribe grew like the roots of an ancient tree, deep, strong, and intertwined. The town itself began to change, shaped by the quiet revolution she had sparked. Where once mistrust ruled, there were now moments of shared laughter and cooperation. Markets began to accept goods from the tribe, and settlers learned the sacred songs and stories passed down through generations. It was a fragile peace, yes, but one built on the foundation of something far stronger than fear. The woman's heart swelled with pride, but also with an unshakable awareness of the past shadows. She knew that old wounds could reopen at any moment, that hatred was a fire that could flare up with the slightest spark. But she also knew the power of the human spirit to heal, to forgive, and to rebuild. Her journey had taught her that respect was not given lightly, nor was it easy to earn. It was a daily act, a choice made again and again in the face of hardship. One night, as the lanterns flickered beneath the moonlight, the tribe held a ceremony in her honor, a rare and sacred gesture. They spoke of her bravery, of the way she dared to defy the brutal codes of the frontier by honoring the dead enemy. Their voices rose in song and prayer, weaving a tapestry of gratitude that wrapped around her like a warm cloak. In that moment, she felt the full weight of what she had accomplished, not just for herself, but for all who had yearned for peace. But the peace was fragile, and the winds of change brought new challenges. As settlers from distant lands moved in, unfamiliar with the history and the delicate balance, tensions began to stir once more. The woman saw the same fears in new eyes. The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing what little safety they had. She knew the work was far from over, and that she would need to stand firm once again, ready to defend the light she had helped kindle. Her story had become a beacon, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the Old West, respect and honor could illuminate paths toward understanding. And as long as the lanterns burned, so too would the hope that one day, peace might be more than just a fleeting dream. The arrival of new settlers brought fresh opportunities, but also stirred the simmering embers of conflict. Some newcomers arrived with open hearts, eager to learn and live alongside the tribe and the established settlers. Others carried old prejudices, hardened by fear and ignorance. The woman found herself walking a delicate line, mediating between worlds that history had taught to be enemies. It was a role she accepted with quiet determination, knowing that the future depended on building trust where none had existed before. She began organizing gatherings, simple meetings under the wide-open sky, where stories were shared and differences aired. These meetings became a place where old grievances met new hopes, where grudges were slowly replaced by understanding. It was not an easy path. There were arguments, heated words, and moments when the fragile peace seemed on the brink of collapse. But through it all, the woman's unwavering belief and respect kept the fires of dialogue alive. The tribe shared their traditions openly, inviting the settlers to witness dances, ceremonies, and rituals that honored the land and their ancestors. In turn, settlers offered tools, skills, and knowledge that helped improve lives without erasing the tribe's identity. This exchange fostered a new kind of community, one that recognized the value in both worlds. The woman watched this transformation with hope, knowing that true peace required more than silence. It needed active care and commitment. Yet, shadows lingered. Outside forces, the government, landowners, and mercenaries, cast long shadows over the horizon, eager to claim the land without regard for its people. The woman knew that threats were not only physical, but also legal and political. She prepared to fight on many fronts, understanding that the battle for respect was ongoing and multifaceted. The lanterns still burned bright, but their light needed defenders ready to face every challenge. In the quiet moments before dawn, the woman often reflected on how a single act of kindness had sparked a flame that now illuminated an entire community. It was a reminder that even the smallest gestures could ripple outward, touching lives in ways unimaginable. And in the heart of the Old West, that flame of respect and hope burned steadily, refusing to be extinguished by the harsh winds of the frontier. The woman's resolve was tested as new pressures mounted against the fragile peace she had nurtured. Outside interests threatened to divide the land, forcing families and communities to choose sides. Yet, she remained a steady beacon, reminding everyone of the promise held in that night when she buried the fallen warrior with honor. Her courage inspired many to stand firm, even when fear whispered that resistance was futile. The story she carried in her heart became a rallying cry, a testament that respect and humanity could withstand even the fiercest storms. Amid the turmoil, unexpected friendships blossomed. Young settlers and tribal youths learned to read each other's eyes, finding common dreams beneath the vast western sky. They shared stories by campfires, songs and languages that blended like the colors of the sunset. These moments, small but powerful, wove a tapestry of hope that even the most hardened skeptics couldn't ignore. The woman saw in them the future she had dared to imagine, a future where past wounds could heal and new bonds could flourish. But the frontier was never kind to hope alone. Tensions flared once again when a band of hostile men, fueled by greed and fear, sought to seize the land by force. The woman, now a leader respected by both tribes and settlers, prepared to face this new threat with a heart steeled by every hardship she had endured. The battle ahead was not just for land, but for the soul of the West itself, a fight to preserve the respect and honor that had lit 1,000 lanterns in the darkest night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the plains, the woman stood ready, surrounded by those who believed in her cause. They carried the weight of history, but also the light of possibility. The tribal lanterns glowed softly, as if to say that no matter how fierce the darkness, the flame of respect would never be extinguished. In that moment, the true spirit of the Old West revealed itself, not in gunfire or conquest, but in the courage to honor and unite. The final confrontation unfolded beneath a sky painted with stars and firelight, where the woman and her allies faced their foes not just with weapons, but with unshakable conviction. The battle was fierce, a clash of old fears and new hopes, but the unity forged through respect proved stronger than any blade or bullet. Each moment tested their resolve, but the light of the tribal lanterns seemed to guide their hands and hearts, reminding them of the promise they fought to keep alive. When the dust finally settled, victory was not just measured in the retreat of enemies, but in the unbreakable bonds forged through shared struggle. The woman's act of compassion had blossomed into a legacy of peace and understanding, a story told around firesides for generations to come. The lanterns, once symbols of a single knight's honor, now represented a community united by respect and courage, lighting the way forward in a land still wild but forever changed. Her name became legend, whispered with reverence by those who knew the true power of kindness in a world often ruled by violence. She had shown that even in the harshest corners of the Old West, a single act of respect could ripple through time, transforming enemies into allies and darkness into light. The frontier was no longer just a place of survival, but a place where hope could thrive, carried on the glow of 1,000 lanterns. And so, beneath the vast sky where history and spirit intertwined, the woman's story endures, a timeless reminder that respect is a light stronger than any darkness, and that courage, above all, begins with the heart. The Old West may have been wild, but through her legacy, it also became a land where humanity could find its true home. The story of the woman who buried a fallen warrior with honor is more than just a tale from the Old West. It is a timeless lesson about the power of respect, courage, and humanity. Throughout the harshest struggles and darkest nights, she chose empathy over fear, connection over division. Her single act of kindness became a beacon, lighting a path through conflict and mistrust, proving that even in a world built on survival, compassion can transform lives and communities. As we reflect on her journey, it becomes clear that true strength lies not in weapons or walls, but in the bonds we build when we look beyond our differences. The lanterns that once lit her home in the night still burn as symbols of hope, a reminder that respect, once given, can echo through generations, changing the course of history in ways no one could have imagined. This story invites us to ask ourselves, what small acts of courage and kindness can we offer in our own lives to light the darkness around us? The Old West was a land of hardship and challenge, yet it was also a place where the human spirit could rise above pain and prejudice. The legacy left behind by this woman is a call to action, an invitation to choose honor in the face of adversity and to believe in the power of compassion, no matter how impossible the odds may seem. It is a reminder that every one of us has the power to spark change, to heal divisions, and to be a light in someone's darkest hour. So, as you carry this story with you, let it inspire not only admiration but action. Consider the ways respect can shape your relationships, your community, and even the world at large. Because, just like the flickering tribal lanterns, the smallest lights often shine the brightest and guide us through the deepest darkness. Let her courage remind us all that respect is not just an ideal. It is a choice we make every day. If this story moved you, take a moment to share your thoughts below. What does respect mean in your life? And if you want to hear more stories that inspire and challenge the way we see the world, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Your support helps keep these powerful stories alive. Together, we can keep the light burning bright, one story at a time.